guys, welcome to Kaila-holland, where today I'm going to teach you how to do a hand in 4 steps. So let's actually get right ahead. Now this is only going to be for like a beginner, just to like teach you like the forms and like whatnot, but yeah. So I have like the 3 steps that you need drawn out, and for the 4th step I'm going to leave that up to your interpretation because it's mostly just detailing, adding fingernails, adding like little knuckles, stuff like that, and I'll show you guys in the next one. But this is basically just as far as I'll go here before I go on to show you actually putting these steps into practice myself. So this first step is what I call the frame. Okay, so during this step, you're just kind of like getting the line work for what the picture's gonna be like, making sure you put in like where the hands will be, like just the basic shapes of what the hand is going to be. So every time I do this, I start off with the trapezoid for the base of the hand, the palm of the hand, and I just build off of that. After creating the little trapezoid shape right here, I'll always add this little bump for like, because your hand's not flat obviously, and before I start making the fingers to branch off, I always make sure that I add that little line just to give it that little hilly shape. Another thing is the line of action. So because this hand is straight up just like this, the line of action is going like this, but like if it was like this, it might be a little curve, because like that's like where all the fingers pointing. It's like where, like if you're going like that, when your hand would be in motion, the fingers would probably be a little bent and everything's kind of going towards that direction. So this time it's just straight up and it's kind of in line with the middle finger. So this dotted little line, just to make that very clear, that is what I call the line of action. And then I just kind of do just like a little line for what the thumb is going to be like. And that's just kind of where I start off with my hand. And I also include these little dots just to like indication for where the fingers will be spaced before I start actually filling in the forms, so that I don't have to go back and make sure that they're proportional. So I think that's all that I usually use in the first step, making the frame, starting with the trapezoid, adding the palm, adding like the lines for where the index of the fingers will be, and just making sure I have plotted out where, like the basic area where the fingers will be. So second step of making your hand is actually doing the forms. So like just adding the basic shapes, blocking it out. It doesn't have to be as refined as it will be in the final look, but just making sure that you have the basic shapes. Now, when I think of drawing a hand, I think of it in shapes. I don't think of it as like, just a full hand, just to make it a little easier. I think of either these, I can't think of the words, but these little blocks of fingers, I can't think of the words, as either cylinders like this or little prisms like this. Now doing that makes it easier to like see where the shadows are, where it hits it. Like if my hand's like that, or actually like this, you can see very clearly on my pinky like the different edges of my finger, like it's hitting it like the brightest here, and like there's a very clear line where the shadow would be. So that just makes it easier, especially when you're shading, but also just to get the shapes. Like if it's twisted like this, it'll probably be a lot easier to draw than try to think of it in a flat line. It also helps you draw, like get the shapes of these rather than thinking of them as like straight lines, because your hand's like, it bends and stuff, it joins. So you want to think of it in the individual parts that make up your hand. In addition, I usually think of the palm as a little trapezoidal prism, if that's the thing, if that's what you call it. And you're kind of building everything off of that, and just you try to break it down into these shapes around the lines that you drew in the first frame. So just sticking to that, you start to build it up. Now, because this one's straight on, I don't really use the forms right now, but later in the video, when you can see when I put them into practice, you will see more of this blocking off like that. But finally, well, not finally, the next step is refining the image. Well, in this one, while you're thinking of it in cylinders or prisms or in rectangles or little lumps, I guess. I don't know what to call that. Like this. In this one, you'll want to refine it just to make sure it's more of a hand. Like, of course, even though you have these very geometric shapes here, like, you'll want to actually make it into a hand. Like, your hand isn't always these perfect shapes, so you just want to encompass that by making sure the lines are right. I'm sorry, my nose is so sniffly. But, and like adding little joints and stuff where you know that they exist. Also getting the correct curves of like the ridges in your fingers. They aren't straight lines, they're curves. And adding all the little details and not just like making it more of a hand instead of geometric. That's what this step is all about. Now the fourth step, why I didn't want to actually draw this step here, is that this is basically where you're left in this shape, minus the fingernails and like the ridges, maybe adding some shading, you know. But because I'm going to do that several times when I put it into practice in the second part of the video, I didn't think I really had to go through it now. So if you want to see me put these into practice, hang with me, but for now, this is all I'm really going to be talking about with the actual form. So remember, frame, forms, refining, and detailing. And that's really how you make the hand. And all these things really come with practice. You'll get the proportions of the hand, which is really, they're kind of even from the palm to the fingers. It's about to the middle finger. That's about even, and it's kind of important to remember the little curve that your fingers create. They aren't in a straight line. They're in fact more of a curve or even a little angle, a little arrow pointing up or down depending on how you're drawing your hand. So yeah, stick with me as we move on to the next section of the video. So here already is my first hand. Now you can see the trapezoid that I started off and then started to build each finger off of that individually and refined it right then and there. Now you can already see that I don't follow these steps in my own drawing to the T, instead doing what I think fits best at the time. Now, out of all the hand drawings that I did in the video, I think that this is the only one that I'm not proud of, and I think that it comes down to that I didn't really follow the formula that I actually used. I used this website called The Line of Sight, and non-sponsored, but it shows you hands to draw, and it gives you time limits, and for this one I had 5, and I think because I was rushing, I wasn't able to do the form the way I wanted it to. But anyways, moving on. I have this hand, which I was actually pretty proud of, and you can see me going through all the steps. Now, during this red hand, you'll see that where I made some changes to this formula. Instead of using a trapezoid like you would with like a straight-on hand, I made it just like a slanted trapezoid or just a plain quadrilateral just to get my point across. So it's just like knowing what parts to use and when is what really will help you draw your best hands. Now, in this last hand, I will talk about the fourth step, which is style. Now, you can kind of see in the way that I draw hands, a way that I kind of make it my own is the way that I line the hands on the outside and the way that I always darken the knuckles and try to enlarge them to make them a little more defined. So you can kind of see it in this last hand. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. Stay tuned with Kaila-s-krafts if you want to see some more tutorials. I'm coming out with ones about drawing faces, drawing noses, drawing eyes, and body proportions, just to try to help those who believe that they need it. But thanks for watching and goodbye.